Hello everyone. Now in my game Flockum I have been designing a weapon wheel, and for the most part 90% of it I would say is completed. However, the other 10% I have been holding off and pushing aside because I knew it was going to be a pain in the ass. Now that 10% is getting it to work with a gamepad controller. Now, it seems like, getting it to work with a controller should be easy, should be simple, but I don't know if it's me being stupid, not understanding it, or the fact that maybe Unreal Engine's UMG system, little widget UI thing, just getting it work with the controller is kind of a bitch. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I'm just gonna say it's me not understanding how UMG should work, but that's kind of where we are now. Like I said, 90% of it works, that 90% being it working with the mouse and keyboard. You hover over the selected segments of the weapon wheel and it highlights it. You could toggle between selections of the weapon and it's all good. However, getting it to work with a gamepad controller has been fucking frustrating, to say the least. Now, I've read a bunch of articles, saw a bunch of videos from various other people creating their own weapon wheel system, and I was unable and unsuccessful to get what they had implemented to work for my system. The only way for me to have it work with the way they were implementing it was probably starting from scratch and implementing something similar to what they had style-wise and functionality-wise, but I already had such a big part of it built in. I thought it wouldn't be so efficient starting all over. So after a long time of going through videos and reading articles, I just decided to post something on Epic's dev forum to see if maybe somebody could provide a bit more guidance of what I had. And even now, crickets, nothing, no reply, no nothing. You can actually still see my post up with me replying with the progress that I made. And at this point, I was like, well, son of a bitch, how can I get this to work? So I stepped back and thought about a way for me to implement what I had with what I knew how to. So I thought for a second and decided maybe I could use the left thumbstick as a way to control the cursor to move around the weapon wheel. And so I was able to do that, and it worked right-ish. It worked. We'll say it worked, right? Because in the end, you are trying to use a cursor to select a weapon wheel with the left thumbstick. And as a result, it felt stupid and it looked a little bit stupid and it wasn't great. And so I thought maybe, I could do something along the lines of Destiny's UI, where you have that little circle that navigates the UI and selects stuff, or even like Black Ops 4's menu system, where you have the circle navigating the menu. And I thought it would be a little silly looking, navigating that circle cursor along the weapon wheel, so I decided, we'll just leave it invisible and have it highlight the actual segments of the weapon wheel. But again, it's kind of stupid because you're now navigating an invisible cursor on your screen and trying to target a weapon wheel, right? It doesn't make sense. So instead, I decided maybe I can constrict the actual cursor or limit it to an actual circle along the actual weapon wheel. And then that way you're only highlighting stuff within the weapon wheel. And so I started looking online again, and I actually came across something. I actually came across an article titled UMG Widget Radial Cursor Clamp, and this is actually by one of Epic Dev's staff members by the name of Cody Albert. And he actually made this article with the actual snippets of getting this to work and restricting the actual cursor in a radius, and you could actually pinpoint where its location start is, how big the radius is, and it actually works. You know, you'll get restricted. You know, you can't move the actual cursor outside of that clamped area, but it only worked with mouse and keyboard, and unfortunately it didn't work when I tried to use the gamepad controller as the actual way to move the cursor, because for some reason, whatever reason it was, as soon as you got off the cursor or the actual restricted route, that fucking cursor freewheeled fucking out, jumping in the sea, running around the fucking the valley, just free roaming, free ranging, whatever it wanted to do, it just did. And so I unfortunately had to 86 that and couldn't use it for this situation or in this case. But I made, you know, decent enough progress with using the thumbstick as a cursor, so I had to step back again and think about what I can do. So then I decided to actually get the arctangent in degrees based on what the left thumbstick was being pointed to or being pushed to. And so I got the arctangent and clamped it between two values and then had it round off into an integer and grabbed that integer and put it into a switch on integer node, and based off of that node's number it would set the mouse cursor to a location corresponding to the weapon wheel's segment. So I was finally able to get the weapon wheel not only working with mouse and keyboard but also with the gamepad controller. And yeah, it was a lot more difficult than I expected it to be. Maybe because again, I don't know how to do it. I'm self-taught, teaching my, reading stuff up on the internet, learning myself. Maybe I just don't know enough, but again, it's been a couple of cases where using a UI with UMG or, Unreal's UI system has been not the best. Now, there's probably people out there that are gonna see this and be like, wow, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Why doesn't he just do it like this? This would be much easier. And I bet you are correct. You are right. However, I do not know how to do those things at all. I am self-taught. I am learning as I go. So that might be the reason why. Now, I know somebody probably may mention also the fact that you can focus on a widget and have the controller navigate between focusable widgets, and I tried that. I had tried focusing on the actual widget, and at first I wasn't able to get the widget or the controller to focus on any part of the widget, and then when I finally was able to, it did not function the way you would think a weapon wheel would. It wouldn't navigate smoothly between sections of the weapon wheel. It would, jump across or jump from one to the next to the other one when you didn't want it to, and you would have to get lucky. You would have to get lucky to select the one that you wanted. So that was something I couldn't implement in that way. Also, I even use their common UI widget system where it's supposed to auto detect when a controller or a mouse and keyboard is being used, and so when it uses a controller, it would focus parts of the widget and automatically be able to navigate them with the D-pad or the thumbstick. They have this system in Lyra where you are able to open the menu, it detects if there's a controller being used or if there is a mouse being used, and you can navigate pretty easily with either one. However, kind of the same issue with before of it not detecting where it should go. I guess, making something radial kind of just didn't make it feel smooth or responsive. I wouldn't go to, the top right corner. If you wanted it to go from the top to the top right, it would funk around and just go zigzag, and just not pick the one that you needed. Now again, this system may not be the best, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot more efficient ways to do this, but I will say I'm not the person to get it completed in the most efficient way, because again, I'm brand new to this. However, it is working, and it feels smooth, feels responsive. It's not stuttering, got some good frame rates. It's working the way you would expect a weapon wheel to work. There are some things that I do need to polish that are not exactly pertaining to you selecting the widget, but I have, when my widget appears, a slowdown effect, but sometimes it doesn't activate, so then you'll see yourself getting smacked in the background at full speed, which is not what's intended. So there's a little things here and there that I gotta fix with how it's being interacted with other systems, but for the overall part of it, it is working, and it seems to be doing the job, which is what we want. Now, if you did watch the video, thank you, appreciate it. If you did stick to the end too, greatly appreciate it. Alright, that's pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead, hit thumbs up, like it, comment down below something. If you guys do want like a more in-depth tutorial of how I did this from beginning to end, of creating the actual weapon wheel, getting the functionality to work, go ahead and let me know. I'm definitely down to make a video of it if there is interest of a measly couple of views, but you know what, there's some videos out there that have helped me, that have had like 100 views, and they would fucking get me out of a pickle. So fantastic, right? All right, everybody, signing out, I guess. I don't know, what's my sign off gonna be? I don't know. Peace. Peace. I'll do that. Peace. This has been the Rat Bastard. Bye bye.